Hey guys, welcome to Book Review 167. Today I am going to be reviewing Heart and Soul, Australia's First Families of Wine by Graeme Lofts. Okay, so this book is about 12 wineries within Australia that have been marked out and selected as special to the region as sort of like inherent wineries, and kind of the key is that they have to be family owned. It can't be like a large corporate winery. They have to have some prestige. For the most part, they have to have a history, though there are a couple of the wineries that are much younger. Um, yeah, and the book kind of just generally goes through each of those 12 families. Let's see what the title page is. Um, Yeah, so it talks a lot about the individual histories of these various wineries and uh, kind of the hardships that some of the early people who founded the wineries had to go through, kind of what their subsequent generation had to go through. Uh, Kind of a common theme was that it was often founded by kind of outsider immigrants, people that went to go work on farms, and then kind of, not all of them, but then they slowly shifted into wine. Another common theme is that either they were under pressure to or did plant fortified wines, which are really not that popular nowadays. I guess the most famous fortified wine being like port wine, but back in I don't know, before 1960, let's say, or 1950, um, really most Australians did not drink that much table wine. And it was really sort of with the Italian immigration after World War II, a little bit after World War One, but more specifically after World War II, that table wines came to the forefront. Kind of another common theme was, there used to be classified as just clairets, and I forget what the other one is, but the wines moved to grape classification, which they still, for the most part, don't do in Europe. They do terroir classification. Um, but some of the big varietals, obviously in Australia, that are very famous. Probably the most famous is Shiraz, um, but also Sibian, uh, Riesling. On the white wines are very popular, and then uh, Cabernet Sauvignon is very popular. Another red varietal that's very popular. That being said, most of these wineries are diversifying so that there's sort of a wide range of wines that they offer. Um, None of these wineries are so small that they can't offer wineries. As a matter of fact, a lot of them started as like uh, single plot wineries, and then as the company's business grew, they were able to purchase more land. Um, Another common theme is I don't remember what the name of it is, but there's a specific virus. I think in the 19, I think it was like the 1920s or 1930s that affected like all these wineries. I guess we can look at some of the specific wineries. There's uh, Yalumba, Yalumba. I'm sure I'm mangling that. Tyrol's wines. Yambula is from, where's Yambula from? That's from the Basra Valley, I believe. Tyrol's wines, which are the Hunter Valley. Uh, Talbeek, Talbilk wines, which are from Victoria. I don't know if that's from the Eden Valley or the uh, Yaumba Valley, whatever that one is. Hinsky wines, Campbell's wines, McWilliams wines, Brown Brothers wines, Darnberg, which I enjoy quite a bit. They make the Dead Arm. I've had a few of these wines. I've also had the McWilliams. Um, the Day Bortoli wines, the Jim Barry wines, the Taylor's wines, and the newest one, and the only one from Western Australia, Howard's Park wine from the Margaret River region of Western Australia. Um, Kind of a few interesting stories. I specifically think Darnbergs and their, I'm sure I'm mongrelling that, but and their history of their Scottish history. Something kind of interesting is that a good chunk of these wineries were started by Scottish and Irish immigrants, which, considering that they can't really grow wine in Scotland or Ireland, is kind of um, counter to their culture, I guess you'd say. But at the same time, that's why you moved to Australia, to create a new life for yourself. So even if it isn't historically kind of within their blood to make wine, it's certainly to make alcohol. Uh, and yeah, and they've certainly just been successful despite their heritage. Um, the Di Bertoli wine, that guy was from Italy. That family was from Italy, and their father and son always argued, but kind of they never listened to one another, but would always eventually implement each other's plans. Kind of your classical arguing Italians. Let's see what else stood out. Well, Yolamba and their history. Um, it was one of them. I think it might have been Campbell's. That the guy that started the winery was a teetotaler. Like, he didn't drink alcohol at all, which is kind of an interesting idea for somebody starting a winery. So, let's see what else. Just kind of flipping through some of this. Is that Yalumba? Yalumba Chardonnay. Oh yeah, I've had that one. That's a good one too. This book has a lot of like pictures. Let's see if I can get a good one. Yeah, there you go. Of the people in the winery. That's Darnbergs, I think. Oh no, that's Tyrol's. Oh yeah, Talbilk, which is one of the few wineries that has a river that is very close to the winery. No, normally you want the winery kind of up on the cliffs, not being affected at all by sort of alluvial temperature changes. But for whatever reason, this Talbilk was able to create a very successful winery fairly close to a large river section. You can see that there's part of the river section right there. Yeah, McWilliams, that was one of the first wineries. It's kind of cool. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. I'm a little sick. There's some Talbilk being aged. Oh, yeah, here's the Hinksky family. Garden of Eden. Yeah, but overall, I'd say this is. Oh yeah, that's crazy, Mr. Campbell. Yeah, I think he was the one that was a teetotaler, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it's one of the other families. Yeah, a lot of cool pictures. A lot of cool pictures of guys in like the 19. I don't know if you can see that. The guy looks like he's from straight out of 1975, which I think is what it was. There's the Darnbergs with their Scottish heritage. So he's wearing a kilt. Who's that? McWilliams. McWilliams being one of the first, I believe it was McWilliams, one of the first irrigated wineries. It was in a semi-arid area, so they had to rely upon irrigation to get the crops to fruition, if you will. But this has actually become a very common process across Australia, partially because you can, if you have a dry area that you irrigate, you can more easily monitor the amount of rain that comes in. So that's actually quite helpful because you don't want wines getting too much liquid in them, too much water in them, because then they plump up. And that's good for table grapes, But for wines, to get that intense wine flavor, you want them to kind of struggle and be small grapes and low yield. Uh, yeah, just barely survive. Um, Dorbergs, yeah, that's kind of a cool pick. Kind of a hilly scene. Well, anyway, kind of rambled long enough. Jim Barry wines. Oh yeah, the Jim Barrys, they really liked cricket a lot, and they actually had a cricket field around one of their wineries. You get different types too. Like that's a rosé right there, I think. Sparkling Pinot Noir. It's got to be a mixed Pinot Noir. That can't be a pure Pinot Noir. Uh, yeah, it's good stuff though. Okay, well I'm gonna leave it at that. Keep checking out my book reviews, and if you like Wine of Australia, this is definitely a good book to check out. It's kind of backwards now. You can read it like this or something. Heart and Soul, Australia's First Families of Wine. All right, check it out, you guys. Bye.